So I carry a fire kit. In this little wool bag, I've got waterproof matches. So that's one way I can light my fire. If the sun's shining, I've got a magnifying glass. I'll just bring it out. Everybody knows. Heaps of people used to start fires when they were kids with these. Well, it's a really handy thing to have in your fire kit. Unfortunately, there's not enough sun here at the moment. And then inside this plastic bag, I keep it in a plastic bag and even double up a plastic bag so that it won't get wet. And so when I pull it out, I've always got dry stuff. Alright, I've got a candle. So if it was raining, I can use this candle to drip wax onto the tinder, and that'll start it even if the wood's wet. I carry strips of ghost gum bark, which has quite a few oils in it, and it starts really quickly, and yeah, it just starts really quickly. So we'll get a few pieces of this out. I probably don't even need it, but I'm just showing you, like, especially if it was damp around, well, I'd want to have really dry kindling. This is my tinder. And it's the down from the thistle and the milkweed. Quite a few different plants have this fluffy, downy kind of stuff, and it's all incredibly flammable. Most of this came from the Scots thistle, which grows around all over the paddocks and along the creeks, along the edge of the rainforest. So whenever I see it in blossom and it's doing this, these are all seeds. I collect it and put it in my fire kit, because that starts up really quick. So I'll put a little bit of that down here. And then I carry a magnesium flint and steel tool, which you can get at any camping shop, army disposal, whatever. This block is magnesium. And with this tool I can scrape magnesium off of here. If it's raining, it burns really, really hot, and it'll start wood even when it's wet. Okay, but it's not wet right now, so all we need is a spark. I want to have a little teepee here. The fire eats air. That's what it eats for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks and everything. It's always air. So you got to just make sure you've got enough air to your fire. So and now we got the flame going. Okay, as you add the tinder to it, make sure you're leaving plenty of gaps in there for air. See how I'm putting them across like that? Now we can start adding the bigger sticks. Then the next size fuel. We'll let that burn for a little bit. Okay, we're going to put the fire out now. And like I said, I don't have any water to put on it, so just stir those coals around like that. And then take all this loose dirt and put it on there and smother it. Alright, here's a sandpaper fig. That's a really important plant to know about. There's just one little fig right there on the plant. You see it? They turn blue, and when it's in full fruiting, it'll be full of fruit. I can see quite a few now, actually. Quite a few all over the tree. All the figs in Australia are edible. All the figs all around the world are edible, actually. Just the fruit, not the leaves and the bark and all those kind of things. Just the fruit. But and a fig is pretty easily to identify, because when you pick the fruit from the tree and break it open, it's got millions of little seeds in there. Almost everyone knows what a fig looks like on the inside. And this is a sandpaper fig, so the Aboriginals actually used these leaves to polish things, just to put the fine sanding on a boomerang or whatever they were doing. And one of the most important things to know about the sandpaper fig is that, like, when you're walking through the bush, many times I'll come across a grove. Like, you might find 20 of them. A bird has eaten the figs, shit them out, and 20 of them have sprouted in the same place. And when that situation happens and I'm going through the bush and I know that at the end of the day I'm going to have to put a shelter together, well, this is one of the best fibers there is. So I can go into that little cluster of sandpaper figs and take one of them out, maybe 2 or 3 of them if there's 20 there, and peel the bark. It comes off real easy. Just peel it right off in long strips, and I can use that to tie my shelter together with. And the sandpaper fig is everywhere in the bush, from Sydney to Cooktown, this side of the Great Divide. It's one of the most common plants in the bush. The other thing about the sandpaper fig, like, if you come to one tree and you're trying some fruit and it doesn't really taste that much and it's not that nice, well, don't give up on it, because 3 meters down the track, the next fig might be sweet. You can never tell. And one, just meters away, one will be really sweet and one will be tasting like cardboard. Either way, if you're in a survival situation, you're going to eat it and get that nutrition and trace minerals and all those things that you're going to need to survive.
It's really important to know at the end of this valley, the next property, last property along, until about when I was born in 1973, was the biggest timber mill in the Northern Rivers region. And in 1973, this beautiful ridge along here was bare. There was nothing on it. It was totally logged out. So at that point, it all started with all these little farmers' friends and Crofton weeds and things coming up. Then came in the lantana and the camphor, and that provided shelter so that things like the cedars and things could come through. And now, 35 years later, we've got this beautiful rainforest because people have just let that natural course of events happen. So they're not bad things, they're not really weeds, they're actually nature's first step in healing itself and taking it back to, you know, a healthy environment. So I just think that's a really important thing to take account of when we're looking at these plants.
Well, we just came across a stinging tree, and boy, that's one that is really good to know. It's one of the first trees that comes up, like in the rainforest where a big rainforest tree has fallen over, and this tree will be one of the first pioneers that come up through that for the light. And it'll come up especially along when people make tracks into the rainforest or around the rainforest. It'll come up in lots of different places. And if you don't know what it looks like and you accidentally run into it, well, you're going to wish you had your mommy with you, because it is very, very painful. And it's one of those things, it's got hollow crystals all over it. Every part of that plant has got these hollow crystals with really, really sharp points. And if you touch it anywhere on that plant, those crystals go into you and down into the nerves and then break off. And they're hollow. And so even 6 months later, when you go to wash your hands with cold water or something, the pain will come back. So it's a really good plant to avoid. Some people have actually died from shock with this plant. You know, like I've heard of a logger who was sawing down a tree and accidentally fell off, and he didn't have his shirt on and he fell into the tree. Well, he died before they could get him out of shock. This is a giant stinging tree. We have 2 species of stinging tree in Australia. And this is the giant stinging tree, which we have in the border ranges down here in this part of New South Wales. And it's dangerous from the word go. As soon as it comes up out of the ground, it's already got these hairs on them. Okay, this is one of the most important bush tucker plants this side of the Great Divide. You'll find it a lot along creeks, along riverbanks, and actually most of your bush tucker this side of the Great Divide happens either along the edges of creeks, rivers, or in the creek or river. So this is a very, very common one. You'll find it from Cooktown to Sydney, all along the Great Divide. When you dry it, you've got to be really careful of picking this plant because it's got all these crystals in it which will sting you and make you really uncomfortable. So you got to pick it, like a piece of paper like that will work. And I'll just go in there and pick it. If I pick a bunch of them and hang them in my camp and dry them, they go neutral. So then I can make a tea out of it or whatever, and it's not going to hurt me. But what we've done today for one of our meals that we're going to have is we steamed it, and Gareth made it into a pesto with macadamia nuts and stuff. It's really quite a beautiful food. It has a really, really nice taste, this one. And they've done lots of studies on it. It's really high in iron, which is crucial to your health. And you know, it's not just on the banks of the rivers and stuff. It'll be along, like up here, away from the creek and river. It loves to grow in mulch around fruit trees and stuff. So lock that in, because yeah, you don't want to fall into that, or like, see, there's avocados in a tree. I don't see any there now, but, and you didn't know this plant and you just walked right into it. It's a hot day and you got your clothes off. You're going to be very, very uncomfortable. One thing I wanted to do in this film is, because a lot of people that are going to watch this film have seen our first two films, and in our first film I actually made some mistakes. I did the classic. I read something and then thought, oh yeah, this is true, and repeated it, and then found out later that it wasn't true. So I just want to correct that right now. And it's basically about, whenever I say that all the species in one family are edible, disregard it. Because for one thing, they haven't done the studies, like say on ferns. They haven't tested all the ferns. So they don't know, and I can't be saying that. So in our first film, yeah, just be sure that you, if you see that, or if you've already seen it, to realize that those aren't true statements. We just don't know for sure, and I don't want to say something that I don't know for sure about. When you're in the bush and you see a plant that you think you know, but you're not sure, don't eat it to start with, and put it to the edibility test if you really want to know. Don't take any chances, because there are plants out there that can hurt you. Even if you just put them to your lips, they can burn the skin right off to your lips. So just be really, really careful and really, really sure about what you're doing when you're going. And also, people have different bodies, you know, like and allergic reactions. So even any of these foods that you see in these documentaries, just try a little bit at a time. See how your body reacts to it, and then take it from there, because you might have an allergic reaction to one of these plants. So yeah, just be really careful.
I totally agree with that about the mistakes that are in books that have come out about bush tucker, or just about any other subject that you might care to name. There's no one surefire Bible on bush tucker. It's really good, if you want to read up about it and find out more about it, to look at a few sources of information, and you'll find that there are discrepancies there. But one of the most valuable resources you've got is your elders. Speak to people who have been out in the bush for years, who have worked with these plants, that know. You know, the internet's great, the books are great, but you don't know the research that has gone into them totally. Your elders, people that have worked in the bush, you do. You can have a lot more faith because they've been there doing it for a lot of years. That's why it's been fantastic working with Koa, and I think we've both had a fantastic learning curve going through this process with all the plants.
Yeah, that's right. One of the main points that we're weaving through this whole documentary is to walk softly. To walk softly in the bush. Take a little bit here, a little bit there. Not go to one plant and take it all. You know, and also weaving through the whole documentary is there are no weeds. You know, every plant has a purpose.
Coming to the end of this first documentary that Koa and I have done together, it's really exciting that so many people are interested in what we're doing. And some people have come forward and said, oh, we're not sure about this, or we're not sure about that, and it's been fantastic, the whole learning curve, and we're really enjoying taking it to another level, which is what we really hope to do in future documentaries. Coming to the end of the documentary really is just the beginning.
See you on the next one.
See you soon.